I guess we can start talking about it because we are already talking about it. Um, the, this story was included in a compilation of stories by Neil Gaiman called Trigger Warning. And actually, I went through some of them, and I liked this one, at least how it was described and the summary of it. Um, and I wanted to read something by Neil Gaiman. I knew that he was a writer for the TV show Doctor Who, and I had bought children's book, a story by him that I gifted to my niece, and I liked it a lot, the children's story. So I wanted to read something more, and this story came up. Uh, Neil Gaiman, for those of you that don't know him, is an English author. He has written everything, like short fiction, novels, comic books, graphic novels, non-fiction, audio theater, and films. He has many famous works, like for example, the comic book series The Sandman, and some novels that are well known, like Stardust, American Gods, Coraline, and The Graveyard Book. He has won numerous awards, including the Hugo, Nebula, and Bram Stoker Awards, as well as the Newbery and Carnegie medals. He is the first author to win both the Newbery and the Carnegie medals for the same work, for The Graveyard Book. And in 2013, The Ocean at the End of the Lane was voted Book of the Year in the British National Book Awards. Where does all this come from? Well, he said that as a child and a teenager, he read books of C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, Lewis Carroll, Mary Shelley, Rudyard Kipling, Edgar Allan Poe, Michael Moorcock, Ursula K. Le Guin. So if we see all these authors and what he read when he was younger, we can understand why he writes what he does. And well, interesting enough, he made a collaboration with Terry Pratchett, the author of the Discworld novels in 1990. They wrote a novel together called Good Omens. And
I must say it's because they were very good friends. Very, cool. Very good friends.
Yeah, actually, Gaiman said afterwards that he barely did any work because Pratchett was working more than him in the novel because he was like busy with other projects and stuff. So he gave most of the credit to Pratchett. He also was very good friends with Tori Amos, which is one of these singers that either you love her or hate her because she has a very particular style. I used to like her a lot when I was a teenager, and it was funny for me to find that they are so good friends that Gaiman's inserted her as a character in one of his novels, which is fun. And well, that's it about Gaiman's. Let's talk about the story that we read. Let's start with our usual round. As usual, also we are recording the discussion. It will be uploaded at eBooks as a podcast, maybe to YouTube too. And well, let's see what we think about it. So, Eugenia, I know you're a fan of the author, so let's start with you.
I love this story. I want to rate us to rate it so that I can vote. I think my first 10 during the quarantine. I love this. I am very biased right from the start because even if it wasn't from Neil Gaiman, I love fairy tales and I love dark version of fairy tales because I think they're very interesting. But there are some I like more than others. During quarantine, I chose one short story to discuss that was The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter, and we didn't like it that much. So I think it shows that even if it's a dark fairy tale telling, I need it to be well done. And this one delivered. I loved it so much. Maybe if I had read the non-illustrated version, I wouldn't have voted the 10, but because it was illustrated, it was gorgeous, and I loved reading it so much, and I don't know, reading a physical short story for the first time during the quarantine was a very cool experience. So maybe that's that. But I really like the twist that it gives to a familiar story that I think most of us thought we knew how it was going to end like. And I thought it was really original, really a really refreshing spin. I really enjoyed how he stuck close to the original formats of fairy tales, the language, the old style of writing, the fact of not naming any characters, but still I felt close to them even though they didn't have any names, or I didn't know as much about them as one thinks one should before empathizing with them. I really liked it, and the fact that I really felt that the story had a strong message overall, and I like that in stories that they have a central theme that is interesting enough to explore, but that after reading the story, you know that that was what you wanted to talk about. And for me, this one is that the appearances don't often match the inside, and I really agree with that message. I found it was a really a really important message to be found in a fairy tale of sorts. I really liked it. Now I can't stop fangirling.
Thank you. Eloisa, what do you think? Did you like it?
Okay, I have to confess I'm a fan of Neil Gaiman. Yeah, I really like his style. I think he's a very creative author. But I don't know if because I have very high expectations, I like it. But I will not say it's one of my favorite books or stories from him. I like the twist, all this dark kind of style fairy tale thing. But yeah, I don't know. I like it, but I didn't love it.
Okay, thank you. Margot, did you enjoy reading it?
Yeah, I enjoyed reading it, and I was a little. I had only read Neil Gaiman comics a long time ago. I never had read any prose, and yeah, I guess at the beginning, the first few pages, I wasn't very engaged. I almost speed read it after that, but then something about I found the way he was writing like very heavy. But then I started seeing the humor in it a bit more, and even how he does things like he doesn't name anyone, but he describes the dwarves by the tallest, the second tallest, when the characteristic you have in mind about dwarves is that they're short. And I was like, okay, these things are nice. And in the end, I got really into it, and was a little let down in the last couple pages. But I found it really enjoyable, and I'll read more of his stuff now. Yeah.
Thank you. Andrea, what do you think of the story?
I like the fairy tale style, but for me, the story was just like okay. Like I like some elements of it, but I don't know. This kind of revision of all unclassic fairy tale stories is not like it feels not very innovative anymore. Like it has been done so many times. But I like some elements. I really like the scene where the sleepers start to sleepwalk because it reminded me of a zombie story, and I thought it was very cool. No, but also I really like the character as well, and some description. I really like at the end where when Snow White, obviously, just to do a different thing to, I suppose, what expected from her. And because in fairy tales the princess, mostly the woman, don't doesn't have like really much choice about her own life. It's always like fate, or I don't know, the will of others, but never hers. So I thought for me that was the most remarkable element in the story. I don't know if there are any others, but for me that was kind of the only one. So I don't know. Okay, it was okay.
Thank you. Mo, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Andrea. Like, I wasn't particularly thrilled by it. I didn't hate it, which I kind of thought I was going to, because I have a sort of a love-hate relationship with Neil Gaiman. I've read quite a lot of his stuff, and some of it I like, and some of it I really, really, really don't like. So I wasn't sure what to expect going in. So yeah, it didn't like annoy me like a lot of his works do, but also I didn't really care for that much. I'm not a big fan of like fairy tales and this kind of high fantasy dwarfs and stuff like that in general either. So it's not something I would have chosen to read outside of the club. So I'm not mad that I read it, but I probably won't think about it again after today.
Thank you. Hi, Eric. What did you think of the story?
Hi. I just like Mo. I also like I would say 60% of Gaiman's work, and absolutely hate 40% of his work, and especially like his nonfiction work. I love this story, but some parts of it I absolutely hate it. Like, for example, of course, it's a feministic worldview. I like the idea that women do not need men to save them, right? I like the idea that the main female protagonist does not stay at home and leaves to live adventurous life and makes her own decisions. But and I also like that it's a fairy tale, right? Because I love fairy tales. I mean, I'm almost 40 years old, but this is a kind of book which gives me an opportunity to discuss with my teenager son, right? Because it's I love it, and he reads it, so we have an opportunity to discuss some of the important questions he needs to begin his life. But the things I did not like about it is because it's very controversial. Because first of all, I think the illustrations to this book, which are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I keep this book just for the sake of the art of it. The aesthetics of Friedel is amazing. But I think he over-sexualized the pictures of women. I think the final kiss was almost, I think it's porn, right? Because as you said, that the kiss was long and hard, not the one which you need to remove the spellbound. And the picture is absolutely beautiful, but it's almost like, okay, it's erotic, but almost porn. And this is the key problem for me, because it's, on the one hand, he pursues feministic worldviews. On the other hand, they, not Gaiman, of course, Gaiman and Riddle, I think they equally created this work. They over-sexualize women, and the kiss, I mean, it was absolutely unnecessary. I think it's just to create some hype and controversy to increase sales, because this book is about feminism. It's not about homosexual love. So yeah, and some other stuff which we'll discuss during the book club.
Thank you. Nuria, did you like the story?
My problem with Gaiman works is that the first one that I read was The Sandman, and it was incredible. I love it, and the next books are not so good, at least in my view. And this is good. I like it, but I like when Gaiman break your mind and go beyond your thoughts. For example, in The Sun or American Gods, a book that you have to think a lot about it. And this is a fairy tale. It's okay. It's very well written, but it's not the best of Gaiman. At least I think so.
Thank you. Antonia, did you like it?
Hello. Yes, I did. I did like it. I think the way he begins with connecting these two fairy tales, Snow White and Beauty, it's interesting, and the purpose is it's about it's obviously it's clearly feminist, but it's not only that. It's about not being the passive subject in the fairy tale, but being somehow active, and how what it looks like initially, can be you can have some plot twist at the end, okay, where they also suggest somehow that maybe the Sleeping Beauty was the cause of Snow White situation or issue with her own fairy tale. I think it's interesting. Okay, I like it. At some points, it's confusing because of the reading the author puts, in my opinion, to the book, mixing all the characters. But I think it's fresh, it's refreshing. It's a new approach to using a fairy tale or two fairy tales in a modern way, not for children, in my opinion, it's very much for adults, but just using this tool as a very good with a good intention of giving us a deeper message.
Thank you. And Isa, did you like it?
I think it is a fantastic history about the sleeping prince, and at this time with two wolves and a queen with a stepmother. I thought in the tale of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Well, I like this history because the hero is a woman.
Thank you. Well, I liked it too. I had the sensation all through the story that I had already read this story before, like many times, and seen it. Because the twist on fairy tales with a feminist touch has been done before. Like, for example, this TV show called Disenchantment that you can see on Netflix, it was reminding me of that all the time. It's like a very strong female lead that is also a princess, and there's magical creatures and a castle and stuff happens. It's more or less this stuff. But it also has been done in many different ways, sometimes by Spanish authors like Rosa Montero, to get the old fairy tales and update them to the modern times, including stronger, independent female characters, which is something that was necessary. I in generally like fairy tales. I think they can act as guides, and as values change and moral change in the modern times. It's good to have stories to use as reference as to what is good and what is bad, and to explain to kids, and so to kids and adults too, what will we do in different situations? How will we react to some stuff? Like, for example, to the pressure of the society that surrounds us. If the entire society wants us to marry, do we have to? Well, what this story shows us is that no, we don't have to. We don't want to. I have to read it for this story and what happened with the main character, with the female character, because we can think of it as someone who has suddenly discover the power of her own emotions and gets the ground to act upon them. Like at the beginning of the story, she was going to get married, and then after all the adventures, she realizes that she can do whatever she wants. Like, she can take decisions and choose by herself, so she does this. Now, it can also be read in a different way, which would say more in favor of Neil Gaiman, which is that the character evolves. Like it learns and manages to change as a character, as a personality, and then twist completely what she wanted before. Because we could also think at the beginning of the story that she actually wants to get married, maybe, but then she changed her mind, and there's the change. Like the way she talks to her soon-to-be husband is quite endearing. Like she treats him like a, I don't know if like a pet, but like a lover, like trying to make him feel all right before she leaves. So I don't see there like she's like hating the idea of marriage, but then she changed her mind. So there's an evolution of the character, and at the same time a realization of being able to decide what to do with her life, which is awesome. And in general, I think that the story breaks many boundaries, as it should, like not only for female characters, but about many other topics, like for example, kissing the sleeping girl. At some point, is the dwarves are asking, who of us are going to kiss her, as if only men could kiss women, and it's not, like she decides to do it. So there's a lot of things that are good there, that are broken, that are beyond what is expected, and in general I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, let's start with
which TV show did you mention?
Disenchantment.
Enchantment. I was thinking about Once Upon a Time. It's an American TV show where they mix basically all the fairy tales character in the world.
Disenchantment's a bit different, taking into account that it was made by the creator of The Simpsons, I believe.
Okay, it's
I think you know which one it is now.
Yeah. Of course.
Maybe Once Upon a Time is more close to this because it's more to adult audience.
Yeah, Disenchantment it isn't so much a fairy telling, but like a party.
Yeah, but in Enchantment, I think
an affectionate party, but still.
No, but the point here is that the characters, mostly Snow White, learns from her behavior to grow. She's taking decisions, and finally she gets the determination of not being back to get married. So after that important experience for her, that is saving Sleeping Beauty, she makes a decision. So she's also confronting the stereotype of Snow White fairy tale character.
Yeah, to me, it one detail really showcased to me that the point of her character is her evolution, because it is mentioned that implied, or at least I inferred that because of what happened to her, that she also was forced to sleep because of magic. That's the reason why she is the one that can go with the warriors and be strong enough not to fall asleep like all the other humans that were in the village at the start of the story, and why she can be strong enough to reach the tower and reach the sleeper. And to me, that's very, very similar to real life, even though it may seem like it has nothing to do with modern life, because of what happened to you in the past, because of past mistakes, past bad things that happen, you grow and you evolve and you become better, and there are things that you can do only because of what you suffered before. So to me, it was a very nice touch to it.
Yeah, I really like the character of Snow White because she has so much experience. It's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I don't need the assistance of any man. It was so refreshing to read that. And of course, if you notice in fairy tales, we never get to see like the princess becoming queens. It's like the end when they are going to be married, and that's why the Sleeping Beauty character I thought I like because she gets old. That never happened in classic fairy tales.
Mhm.
One thing
I
that
think,
I like a lot about the book is that I think that there is a lot of symbolism. In fact, Gaiman used symbolism in all of his books. And for me, for example, is very important the mountains, because nobody can go through them. They have to go around, and I think that the mountains are the difference between a person and another. She lives in her reign, in her world, and she has to go through her subconscious, because she goes under the mountains and go to the other people that are sleeping. She instead is awake, because she has go through her questions and can be conscious of her life. And this is the process in my point of view of the fairy tale. It's a journey through life, and how you can see your experiences. You can live as a sleeper. You can live in all the experience that you have in your life. I think that some of the symbolism is something like that.
Well, I would like to mention why I did not like this book, and I have three main problems with this book. First of all, I think the centuries of dumb patriarchal traditions always specified that for a female, her body, her physical look is the destiny. Her body will determine her life, if she will marry a prince or a peasant, etc. And so this is feministic book, obviously, but here female anatomy is underlined very often. Well, first of all, in illustrations, all women all of them look like Eva Mendes, right? They're very sexual. Also, I mean, when he describes the old woman, he describes how problematic her hair is, how ugly she looks. All the sleeping peasant women, how big their breasts are, etc. So there are very many explanations of the physical characteristics of women. Second, I think Gaiman probably did not mean it, but he does not equalize genders. He does not make them equal. He subordinates men by women. Just like what stupid, dumb men have done for more than 5,000 years to women, in this story, women do to men, right? Because all women are very beautiful, smart, courageous, and most of the men are ugly, coward, stupid, and pet-like creatures. And third problem, I think that here the main protagonist is a woman, but the main villain is also women. And the stories, for me at least, looks like the female characters, women, can be just as cruel as men when they seek power. They are ready to zombify entire kingdom. They are ready to kill. They are ready to torture, right? Because the witch at the end is a woman, right? Because the witch phenomenon is created by men who were afraid of smart, beautiful women, and so they expelled them from their society because they were afraid of their dominance, intellectual and physical, and they called them witches. So here, I think that this is the main controversy for me.
kind of agree with some points. Like, I don't really see it very much as like a particularly feminist text. I mean, when you compare it to the original fairy tales, of course, it's more feminist, but when compared to other things being written in, I don't know when this was written, I'm assuming now, like contemporarily.
I think early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah, really.
I think the book said 2015, but it's been out longer, maybe. It's called Trigger Warning, which is very from the last.
That's true.
According to Google, it was published in 2013, this story.
So yeah, compared to other things being written in the past 10, 20 years, it's not particularly progressive in that regard. It's just like, I mean, the fact that it has a female character as the main character doesn't make it a feminist book or story. So, and yeah, I think I kind of lost what I was going to say. If anybody else wants to say something, go ahead and I'll come back to it later.
Sorry, Margot, go on.
No, for me, it wasn't particularly feminist either, but I don't think a text has to do everything. Like, it doesn't have to be feminist and be about race or things like that. But for me, the thing that didn't work was when I got to the end, I was disappointed. And talking about it more now, I think it's a little bit like we talk about the character changing, but I don't get what the change was. Like, I feel at the beginning, maybe it has something to do with trauma. Like Nuria and Eugenia, I think, talked about that a bit. Like, she has obviously have trauma and that has made her stronger, but I feel like at the beginning of the text, she's already someone who knows she goes into battle. She has her chainmail ready. She's already very confident. She's managing everything. Through the story, she manages everything well. And then at the end, I don't understand what the change in her has been. I feel that it's something that maybe was revealed by seeing, since I don't see any change in her, I imagine she has seen something else that has made her change. But even in the main part of the story, which is like being smarter than the villain and controlling the situation, I don't understand what the villain has taught her that now she knows that there are options and now she wants to go on an adventure. Like, that's why that's why I was disappointed by the ending, because for me it didn't finish selling what the story was supposed to sell.
For me, what I took from the story was that the evolution it is mentioned that in the first part of the story that she's about to get married, and that she states that when she gets married, she will have no choices. And she's okay with that. She's about to marry, and it looks like she loves her fiancé, the person who she's about to marry. But then at the end, the dwarf said to her, we're heading east, like, we're not going back to your kingdom. You're not going to be able to go to your wedding. You're going away to another place. We don't know. And she's like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Like she has moved on from that idea of marrying. Even in the first place, you can tell that she's not very comfortable with it. But I think it is mentioned in the text that she's going to go back and get married, even if it is a bit late, just to solve the problem of the sleeping mist or whatever. But I think that the evolution is that it's not more like that decision of marrying or not. It's more that she's able to face a different version of her stepmother, because what I assume is that she's marrying her fiancé because he saved her because he kissed her when she was asleep, and then she loves him and they're going to get married, and just like the original Snow White fairy tale. But then she finds out that this woman is also a witch, like her stepmother, and is doing everything she wants to get youth and beauty and without any regards for other people. And then she's the one that stands up to her, to this version of her stepmother, to me. It is my opinion again. And to me, that is her evolution. She's not the one being saved, but she's the one saving other people, because she now knows how to deal with this, with these people, with this power. She sees, I've seen your kind before, because her stepmother was a witch also. And that's why she evolves. And then she says, yeah, I'm not going to marry. I'm going to keep with this path, going east, heading the same way as the kingdom of the sleeper was. And I'm going to see what happens. That's, to me, her evolution.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I agree completely. And to follow up on Margot's point, I think maybe it's my crazy imagination, but the name of the book is Sleeper and the Spindle, right? So it's about the female character, female I don't know, just representative of a female class of people. Let's just put it this way, who is sleeping. And for me, the sleeper is equals to a zombie, and zombie equals to a physical body without any soul. I'm atheist, but I don't believe in soul. But like for me, the sleeper is a zombie, and zombie is a person who has a body but no soul. And the spindle for me symbolizes the destiny, which like if a woman is born, her destiny is to be decided by her father, by her mother, and by a man who will save her. And unless man comes, she will be zombie her entire life. So, and since Gaiman is changing the story completely, that makes a feministic story for me. And I think that the queen, the Snow White-like character is changing tremendously, right? Because she was supposed to marry, because it was a custom in her kingdom. She was supposed to marry a prince, and there was only one prince in that kingdom. So she obviously doesn't love him. I think she did not choose him. She was supposed to marry him because her traditions and her parents, which are dead now, like told her. And then she says, no, I will not be sitting at home. I don't care what will happen to me. I don't have any money, but fuck it. I'll just go and explore the world, whatever it may be. So I think that's a major. I mean, I think I'm not that brave enough, like for example, to leave my job and to pursue like the career I like, because I want security. I mean, I'm not that brave like the queen.
I think that the witch is the representation of our desires of being young, being powerful, to all the things that has our material world that are killing our innocence. That is the girl that was growing up until she can't walk, she can't think, she tried to kill the witch, but she can't, because the material world that is the witch doesn't let her to go through it. Then the part of the person, because for me all the book is only a person, has to go through that situation, and she do it by fire, because she entered in the castle thanks to fire and thanks to cut the thorns, that are the things that don't let you to go to your problems. It's a barrier that hide what is the problems inside ourselves. And the thing is that after this journey, she is capable to go to the east, that in the symbolism of the East is to find who you are.
Yeah, on this, on the evolution of the character and what happens to her, I think that my interpretation of the text is that she was already very strong and very independent at the beginning. That she's taking her own decisions and lives her life as she wants to live it, or at least she has the power. And she knows she has the power to choose. It's just that her decisions are different. This is where, for me, the evolution comes. That after this big adventure, this trip that they have, and the things that happen to them, she sees life from a different perspective and takes a different decision. That doesn't mean that she's less stronger or more stronger, less independent or more independent. The way I see it is just that the evolution in her character affects her decisions. And I like the way she evolves in this matter, because sometimes when characters in books, movies, etc., have this travel to independence, to power, to be powerful, to understand their own emotions and capabilities, they tend to be selfish in a subtle way, as in doing everything for themselves. Oh, now I am empowered, and therefore I'm going to do whatever I want, which is awesome. But in this story and in some others, the character that gets empowered uses that power to help the community, to help others, to help other beings around her, which is that the female character in this story does, and I like that, because she's using her independence and her ability to take decisions to decide to help other sentient beings around her. And that's cool. For what Eric was saying before about the female characters that are also good, but the villains and etc. There's the scene at the end where in the same room the three main characters are women. And there's the villain, and there's the queen, and there's the little girl that later is also the villain, but not the old woman. And the dwarf are in a second, in the background. Now, I like this. I like that all of the characters there that are important are women. There's a test, the Bechdel-Wallace test, that aims to observe the representation of women in popular films. And to pass the test, films must have at least two women who talk to each other. And the women must talk about something other than a man. This is the basics of the test. Well, it turns out that only about half of all the films meet these requirements, which is crazy. And stories like this one not only meet them, but surpass them. Like all the important roles at many given moments are women. So I like this, that the women are not only generic stock characters, but are also, many of them, very, very important.
Yeah, in that same way, in that same topic, I just want to say that I think that it's good that there's a woman that's the villain in this story, because to me this gives this villain has agency, and to me that's the difference between some woman villains in fairy tales that have been that are not very good portrayals of women. For example, this story subverts the fact that the villain is often an old woman, very envious, very old, very disgusting, fueled by hate or by rage. And in this story, the woman that appears to be the most beautiful out of the story, even it is mentioned that she's even more beautiful than the queen, that she appears younger, and which in fairy tales is a sign of being better than someone. If you're younger, you're automatically better person than someone else in a fairy tale. It's just mathematics there. And in this story, the most beautiful person in that room of three women and three dwarfs in the background and sleeping zombies, the most beautiful woman is the most evil one, and that's fine, because women are allowed to be evil in this fairy tale because they want power, they want youth, they want beauty, and it's fine because women are people and they should be treated as such in fiction. Women can be evil, women can be heroes, it's fine. To me, I don't think that a feminist story is more feminist because the bad guys are girls or women and the bad guys are men. I don't think that's realistic because we're all people. We're bad and we're good. All of us are multifaceted and we can do evil things. I'm sure I've been the evil in the evil villain in someone else's story sometimes, and it's fine. And as Adrian was saying, I really like that in this story there's this moment in which there are three women that are important in their own right. They're talking about things that have nothing to do with men, and that's really appreciated. But also that the three women are different, even if they're part of a short story. Short stories usually have less developed characters, of course, than novels. They're very different. They want very different things. They're very differently portrayed, and we know exactly which one's who and what they want, what their goals are. While, for example, the dwarfs, we don't tell which one which one is which, because as we said, the important ones in this story are obviously the woman. But I don't think that the men featured in this story are bad or evil. I just saw three men, and they are the dwarfs, and they are sidekicks. They're sidekicks in this adventure story. This girl is like superhero, and these dwarfs are like her sidekicks. And it's fine that for once, three guys are sidekicks and not the heroes dashing, and that a queen can do what no prince has been able to do because of what she's gone through. And I think that's good because it doesn't happen often in stories. It doesn't make a story good, but it makes it, to me, a bit more of a balance. Like making women have more protagonism for once. Well, now for many times because it's very, very common right now, but to me it's important. It's not shadowing men, it's just providing something different for us to read that didn't happen very often.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I wonder if we are like reading like the feminist interpretation in all the details because we want to read it like so. Like as I said, I really like the character of Snow White. I think there is a feminist message in the ending about this character, but I'm not so sure actually about the other two characters. Like her interpretation is very good, but I'm not so sure if that's the real intention of the author.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just my take on it.
Yeah, at least it's like most say, if we are only comparing with very old fairy tale, of course we are like discovering all these new elements, and like in the evil fairy witch or whatever, I don't know what she is in the evil character, at least the author gives her a more like ambitious goal, I think. Like she, because the Snow White say like, oh, you kind always wants youth and beauty, but at the end it's like you want power. So she not only wants to be beautiful and young, but also she wants to rule the world basically and become a political leader. So, but
it's
I'm
genius.
not sure.
Who wants to take over the world by sleeping? To me, I think that's the most evil plan of all. It's like, you do no effort and you're still taking over the world. That's unfair.
I'm gonna sleep a moment, I'm gonna rule the world.
Yeah, and then I think that Gaiman aims to explain that that's what we shouldn't do. Like, maybe, I don't know if it was his intention, but if this fairy tale, this tale for kids had a moral, like the moral of the story, what do we learn reading this story?
Moraleja in Spanish sounds better.
Yeah, like what do we learn from this story for life? And I think that the goal of this story is to show us that we shouldn't seek power, beauty, and youth as the main goals of our lives. Like if we crave those things, well, these things are unobtainable and they don't last. So we should focus in other things, like in building ourselves, a better personality, being better human beings, etc. About the physical appearance of the characters that you were mentioning before, Eugenia, I don't know what to think about this, because we have two different readings here. On one hand, if it's something that adds to the background, to the story, like elements from old fairy tales where women were described because of her beauty, like the same way you talk about, I don't know, castles and rivers and the height of the dwarves, if they are small or big, and the beards that they wear or whatever. You talk about the beauty of all the characters, and women too, because it's an element from all the fairy tales, then yeah, that's fine. It adds to the story to build the atmosphere. But if we think that describing women because of their physical appearance is something that we should do to women, and that we should value how much a woman is worthy because of how she looks, then there's something off there. There's something wrong. This is not feminist. It's actually the opposite, because they become more like objects that you judge because of their beauty or their appearance, and not because of what they do or how they act. So it depends on how we want to look at it.
Can I disagree, please? I disagree with Adrian and Andrea both. I like, yes, Andrea, I completely agree with you that with a lot of books, we read our own beliefs into, but here Gaiman said that I don't like stories where men save women. So this is why I wrote this story. But it doesn't really matter what the writer says, it's what we read from this book. But he said that it's my feministic messages, sort of. And Adrian, I think that I don't think there is in fact, I think that people should pursue and seek power, beauty, money. I don't think if there is anything wrong with it. If you don't misuse it, I think that people should try to be beautiful and I don't know, take important positions in the government, especially women. Right? I mean, you should not misuse it, but you should definitely seek it. And I think the message of this book, it sounds really cheesy, and I think the dedication page was also very cheesy, but it's honest and it looks very enchanting to me. He says that I dedicate this book to his daughters because they are the ones who woke him up, right? And I think it's very important. But for example, myself, I think I'm just really sleeping right now because I'm not making any drastic changes with my life the way I should be making them. Maybe because I'm coward or no, I'm afraid of something. But I think the story, the main message of this story is that like the only one who can wake you up, again, sorry for sounding cheesy, is yourself, only yourself. If you like say to your, and especially for Russia, Adrian, I see that in the background you have the picture of this book from a Russian edition because yeah, but I think this is the main problem in Russia because it's very patriarchal, and like mothers still teach their daughters, I mean not men, mothers teach their daughters that you should not behave like this because men do not respect that, etc. So I think the main key message here is that you should be the only queen of your own emotions. Do whatever hell you consider correct, and don't be afraid to go into the unknown and pursue your destiny. So again, very cheesy, but I think it's a very strong message.
I agree in obtaining power and independence for oneself, that one should do that, but not in staying just there and using just for yourself instead of for others. This applies both to men and to women, like to seek power just to have power for yourself. yeah, it can be okay, but it doesn't sound interesting or good to me. It's just being selfish. That's all.
Yeah, what you said before about the stories aim mainly being for people not to seek so power, beauty, or youth so insistently. It made me think maybe children read this story. Not so many not so many kids would say when they were asked, "What do you want to be when you grow older?" Yeah, I want to be a rich football player like Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. Maybe it won't happen because kids would be like, "Yeah, but maybe if I'm too selfish, I will end up sleeping and directing a horde of zombies, and I really don't want that." So it may be it may have that effect on children, but it may be not. I find it fun.
Mhm. The stories of the fairy tales are usually a way every culture is using to somehow, I wouldn't say manipulate, but yeah, they are indeed manipulating children. Okay, obviously, children are easily manipulated by the culture, and the fairy tales is a very good tool for that. Are telling the boys how do they have to behave, are supposed to behave, and also they are telling the girls how they have to behave. Okay, expecting to be safe and not doing anything. It's quite peculiar, these two fairy tales, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, because both female characters are quite independent at the beginning of the story. Okay, Snow White is the one that is taking control over the home of the dwarves, is taking everything under control. She's a quite powerful character. But then suddenly something bad happened and she needs to be saved. Okay, that's quite significant. Okay, and also with Sleeping Beauty, it's pretty much the same. She's innocent, but she likes to be in the woods, playing with the animals, dancing, singing, making a. But at the end of the day, the main character in the Sleeping Beauty, at least for Disney, that's the version that we better know, is Malefica by one side, the and the prince that is saving. Not talking too much, by the way. The only function of the prince is saving Sleeping Beauty. So when the author in this story says that they don't really need a prince and they can take some determinations, some choose some choices, okay, it seems that obviously there is a quite clear criticism about the fairy tales, about the way they are treating now us when we are children, because if children like fairy tales are because they trust in the fairy tale, and when we are as adults like fairy tales is because we allow them to somehow manipulate us. Okay, we enter into the fairy tale, but at the end of the day, the message most of the fairy tales are giving, as any cultural old story, it has some subtle function at the bottom. Okay, like in this case, establishing roles for girls, for boys, and how are we expected to behave and to deal with some issues. Expected to be safe, don't take any action, and the boy is supposed to be the one fighting the dragon or killing the witch. And also, some of you have already mentioned, always the bad character is a witch, not a man, so it's a woman, most cases. And yeah, it's quite there.
I think that Disney has done a lot of harm to fairy tales because they had changed them and to be appropriate for certain audience. But I think that in the past, and I think that Gaiman do the same, fairy tales go to our costumes to trick something there, to because to understand it, you have to know a lot of things that, for example, a child didn't know. For example, in Cinderella, was Cinderella? No, I don't remember. One of the princes, well, it was not a princess, it was I don't have a lot. My memory is very bad. For example, I don't remember how to say it in English. Cuero. Cuero in English?
Leather.
Leather. For example, a shoe of leather, if someone took it, then the problem is that the meaning is that the man has raped the woman. This thing only, the fairy tales are not Disney fairy tales. That is the problem. We think fairy tale is for children, but Disney fairy tale is for children. The other one, you have to know a lot of meaning of the words that now most of us don't know. That's the problem. And they go to, and some of them go to other plane to say the thing, because it's easy to go to your intestines and touch you something and go to conscience. But the fairy tales that we know is not the real fairy tales.
Yeah, but I was going more for the fact that, well, many people know that in the original Cinderella story, the stepsisters cut their toes so that their feet will fit the slipper. So I wasn't thinking of analogies of rape. I was thinking more like that, bloody fingers everywhere and things like that. But I also wanted to disagree with Antonio. I'm sorry, Antonio. I don't agree. I hope what you said was real, and fairy tale heroines had a bit more agency. But when you said that that Snow White was the one going to the dwarf's house, I was inclined to agree. But then I remembered, I don't know in the original tale, but I sure as hell know that in Disney, the only reason why the dwarfs allowed Snow White to stay is because they don't want to do the house chores, and they say, yeah, you're going to do the house chores and you're going to stay with us if you do the chores.
Becomes a housewife.
Yeah,
Feminist at all. Like, what the hell?
If I were Snow White, there's nothing I hate most than doing chores. And all the boyfriends I've had know that they have to cook and do house chores for me, and I was like, yeah, I feel like the worst for a moment. I feel like I'm blackmailing people to be with me and do my chores for me.
No,
but yeah, in the
these two movies specifically, like I so horrible. Like there's some sex scene, like in both movies, the scene where she met the prince, and it's like, oh my god, I just met him, but I'm gonna marry him.
It's like, it doesn't work like that. I don't think in the Middle Ages it works like that.
This is a model that
has been sold to, like, horrible, really. Like,
yeah, they have different morals.
This is the model that has been sold to girls for centuries. Okay, the main expectation is to find a prince that will take care of her. Okay. No, I was saying about the Snow White. She's not afraid of being abandoned in the woods. She's looking for some place to have a rest, to sleep, and then when she finally is actually serving the dwarves, but she's also putting some discipline in the dwarf house. Okay, so yeah, I agree that it's even more.
Yeah, because even Snow White can put up with Grumpy. that is another tale. But
and the way she has to control the dwarves is with her sweetness at the end of the day. So you are also right.
So I really thought that real fairy tales of people cutting off their fingers was the worst thing about the children's stories in the Middle Ages. But in fact, we were wrong. I found out that there was a compilation of stories, very famous in German in the, I think in the Middle Ages, and it was to teach children to obey their parents, because to teach them how to know what not to do if they wanted to end up alive and well, let's say. And the worst one was a girl that played with matches. The story was that her parents told her not to play with fire, not to play with matches. Maybe that's where the expression comes from. And she didn't listen. She went to a fire, she played with fire, and then a specter came with very long claws and very horrible hair, came and set her on fire, and then called mice to dance on her ashes, just so that children would learn not to play with matches and to obey their parents when they told them things. So yeah, some stories are way worse and more sinister than fairy tales, even though we didn't think it was possible to begin with. Because I don't think it gets creepier than animals dancing on on your ashes.
Yes, I have a
I don't
question.
think it's worse.
Could you help me understand why characters do not have names? I did not understand it.
Yeah, I also found out that it's even lampshaded in the story. In the illustrated version, there's even an illustration for it, and says names are in short supply in this telling. I don't know the reason.
Yeah.
I think
I've read that. I just don't. What is the meaning of this? What does it mean? That only the function or position or visual physical identification, that, like, do you have your own theory? I guess, because I have none.
I have two theories. Maybe both of them are actually true, or maybe none. Okay. First of all, is setting some distance with the fairy tales. Okay, slight distance. Okay, allowing the reader to be the one identifying the character. See, okay, this is that, and this is what they mean. Okay, so it's forcing the reader to make further interpretation of what the characters are. Okay, trying to know the character more than trusting only the names. Because if they say, okay, this is Snow White, okay, great. So you are automatically assuming the characters, the qualities of Snow White you already know because of the fairy tale, not the qualities the author wants to show you about this story. Okay, that could be one explanation. And the other one was just simply to just to put I don't know how to explain this, but yeah, it's about the same. It's setting distance with putting some distance between this story and the fairy tales, and allowing us to not to assume by default that this is the Snow White for the fairy tale. This is a new Snow White. This is a new one. That's my opinion.
I thought it's just like a nod to, these are all the sort of fairy tale tropes, like these characters are in every fairy tale, or at least Disney fairy tale that we get. You have like the princess, the savior, the kooky sidekick, the evil queen. Like, it's just these typical roles that repeat and repeat in lots of the fairy tales, and this story is a pastiche of those roles. It's supposed to be a twist on them. Whether that's successful or not, we can debate. But
no, because
so that was my interpretation anyway.
I love the cookie sidekick.
Yeah,
I love that. I agree with what you said, Antonio and Mo. I think it's maybe a mix, a mashup of all of those reasons, but also I think that some of the titles that are referred to, that characters are referred to with, are very meaningful. We already spoke about, well, the Snow White character, the queen. It's very important that she's not a princess. She's a queen now. She's about to marry. It's very
Mature.
important. There's a lot of symbolism there. More than, like Antonio said, we would have thought different of her, I'm sure, if she had just been named Snow White, because we would all be like, yeah, when are you going to sing with birds? Waiting for that to happen, and yeah, having a different already existing version of the character that's not the one portrayed in this story. But also, I think that there's a very meaningful name, and it appears in the very title, and that is the Sleeper, because the Sleeper is never referred to as the princess. We all know why. It's because she isn't really the princess; she's the witch. But I think that's very meaningful because even the story is not, even if the story wants to surprise you at the end, it leaves things ambiguous right from the start. It's a person sleeping. There's been word by mouth that she's princess, has been cursed at birth, but even from the start, no one is assuming, not even the narrator, not even, no one is breaking the fourth wall. Not even the narrator or the people talking in the tavern or the dwarves are assuming that the princess is the one sleeping. No, she's just the sleeper, this person sleeping, and that's it. Because I think it's important because it's what I gather from this story. Let's not make assumptions because we may be wrong. And yeah, maybe some of you figured it out, maybe not. But yeah, at the end, the sleeper is not. It's not what you would assume she is. She's not the princess. She's the evil witch and the cause of it all. And then her name takes an even more, to me, meaningful symbolism. But that's just me.
I like what you say about let's not make assumptions. Okay, not only for the readers, because also the own character of Snow White Queen, it's also better when she's avoiding the assumptions about herself. You know, she's a queen that is supposed to get married, follow this fairy tale princess role. When she changed that, when she's refusing that assumption, okay, she's the one that is changing the story, changing the history also in this case. So I think it's interesting. I like this. Let's not make assumptions, because maybe it's a very good sentence for summarize many things about this story.
Guys, this is fairy tale. We are supposed to make assumptions and our own interpretations of the story. We are supposed to make assumptions.
I thought we all agreed that this is not a fairy tale. This is a story about or related somehow to fairy tale, but this is not a fairy tale. We cannot judge this story as a fairy tale because it is not.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like a false friend. It looks like a fairy tale. It smells like a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale.
No, in fact, it's a quite powerful criticism about fairy tales, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the reason. Judging from the fairy tale reader position, maybe could condition your opinion and misleading you to wrong conclusions.
Also, there's many ways to not have names, sometimes having names. Like, for example, I'm thinking on this novel called We by Evgeny Tamiatins. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the sentences of this dystopia are all numbers. They are referred as numbers. So do they have names? Well, yes and no, because they are only prisoners in the society where they are living. And this not having names is something that happens recently in many novels that have become very famous. When I say recently, it's in the last decades. I'm thinking of Cormac McCarthy's The Road, where the characters don't have name. Thinking on José Saramagos' Blindness, Ensayo sobre la ceguera. There's no names anywhere, and this has different effects depending on what the story is. Sometimes what they accomplish, like for example with those two examples that I said, the Saramagos' work and Cormac McCarthy's The Road, is to set their tales that they are talking about outside of time. They not belong to a specific geographical or moment in time position, because the names are not there, and then the characters can belong to any era or any situation. Sometimes in fairy tales we have names, but at the same time we don't have them. I'm thinking of Sleeping Beauty. It's really a name. We have what?
Snow White is not.
Yeah, we have made the names, but they are just describing what they are, like a Sleeping Beauty. The Little Mermaid. It's just describing a little mermaid. It's not a name.
Prince Charming.
Yeah.
But now she's Ariel. It's the magic of Disney.
So, but this gives universality to fairy tales. They are not using specific names for many characters, just a description of what they are. And this facilitates giving them an universal consistency. And also names sometimes are used, the characters that don't have names are often used for background characters that are not important in a secondary level in novels, stories, etc. But when you give to these non-important characters importance and bring them to the background and they are the protagonists, you still don't need names for them. They are just someone who were powerless before, but now they are powerful and they still don't need names, which is something that may happen to the queen, that from their previous sleeping to now where she's powerful has come from not important to important. I don't know, many possibilities there.
By the way, I think the inner owner has a name. I think he's the only one. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's like the fox something.
There is one character.
Yeah, he's the most important of them all.
Guys, if I have another
fox or
question,
something, because of the beard.
Oh my god, I'm looking for it because now I'm curious.
Yeah, I think good Master Foxon.
Oh my god, that's precious.
let me ask you another question, if I may. Well, obviously we have two different kingdoms, right? The one is ruled by Snow White, another one is by Sleeping Beauty, I just said. And the kingdom of the Sleeping Beauty is twice as large, right, by population. So just, I know it's crazy, but humor me. Imagine that the smaller one, which is ruled by the Snow White, is United States or Spain, and the larger one, who is like in the web, sleeping, have, from our point, liberal-minded people point of view, is sleeping because they have terrible traditions, etc., no democracy, etc. So how is it right to go to that kingdom, interfere in their politics, kill their ruler, and impose your own ideas and your own worldview? Say this sleeping country is North Korea or Saudi Arabia, which has terrible just treatment of women, no women rights, I would say, almost. So, like, is it okay if US goes to Saudi Arabia or North Korea and interferes in their own worldview?
But in the Sleeping Beauty kingdom, there is no one ruling, actually, because they are all sleeping. So.
It's anarchy. It's a metaphor of anarchy.
No, not really.
No, wait.
No, but the funny thing, in the palace, all the people in the palace are sleeping, but all the rest are not for many, many years. And the kingdom.
But they are asleep when the story takes place.
Yeah, but
wait, they are ruled
in the tavern, in the inner or the hotel or whatever, they say just 1 year ago a plague started and everybody fell asleep. But in the palace, they were like sleeping for like 60 years or so. So
yeah. Well, the country is ruled by the spider webs, right? Because the spiders, which I think for me it's a propaganda. They are not sleeping and they are closing entire country. I think that this sleeping country is Russia, basically, because like Putin is ruling us for more than 20 years and none of us have the courage to kill his system. So like for
Look
me,
at her, she's Putin. Don't you see the resemblance?
So
They're blonde. They're blonde.
okay, so for me, the sleeping country is ruled by this web and by this evil women. So like, what do you think? Is it okay to go to another country and interfere? If you
This is an
believe in your,
interesting
like, if you
question.
absolutely believe that you are right.
The problem is that they say that the sleep is going, the illness is going to the other country. The Queen said that the people that live next to the mountains have to go to inside the country.
Excellent point. Yeah, yeah. Good point.
Save their own country.
Okay.
Never thought it was
Now
like
it makes your
coronavirus.
metaphor even better because it's like the domino theory. Like, oh no, this is going to spread to all the other countries.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm surprised we haven't made the connection yet between the plague, the sleeping plague, and coronavirus.
And coronavirus, yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, we
Okay.
better
Like that is extending between countries. Yeah.
Let's imagine for a second that there's not a deadly virus expanding from the first kingdom into the kingdom of the queen. Let's say that they are just a kingdom isolated where something is happening, another kingdom decides to go, intervene, and change the governing elite and the way they govern themselves. This is a very interesting thing because it talks about imperialism, about being the police of the world, about interfering in other countries and in other populations just because we feel that we are in the right and that we have the moral higher ground to do so. I guess that it will depend. Like if the countries managing themselves more or less well with their own value system, with their own economical system, and the population is more or less living, say, enough life to be considered good, then what's the right to another country to interfere and saying that just because they think that the political system or whatever is not good? I'm thinking, for example, in real cases, in reality, Iraq. Do we have the right to go to Iraq just because we want their oil or because they live under a dictatorship or whatever? My answer, my personal answer will be no. They are doing whatever they want, and the revolution must come from within. It's their own country which must found the grounds to change the way they govern themselves without outside interference, which more often than not ends up quite bad. Even if you think that you are doing the right thing by killing the dictatorship at any given moment, the resulting country is much worse, the situation is much worse than it was before. But then, if we are talking, for example, about genocide, about civil wars where people suffer and you have to open refugees camps all over the world because what is happening, then is then interfering good? Well, probably
like Syria,
yes. For example, I was thinking on Syria. Would the ONU, or however is it called in English, the International Army of Nations, go there and impose peace just because we say no, you can't kill people? Well, probably yes. In the case of Russia, I don't know really, because I think that your democracy works, right? Like you could, if you wanted to take Putin out. I'm not sure. Like I really don't know.
I don't know. What do you think?
Next
My
question.
impression is no, that you cannot.
I think, judging by the recent years, that Putin has a landslide of percentage over everyone that attempts to. I think something fishy is going on there. I think no one can be that likes to always win with such high percentages. But that's my opinion from the outside. Don't know anything about it. But I wanted to pose the question of North Korea, because North Korea has one of the worst regimes in the planet. I think we can all agree on that. And there's no modern country that even compares to what North Koreans have to go through. And yeah, the fact is that even North Korea's appearance stems from the Korean War. So that in itself is very telling. But judging from the North Korea now, no one is intervening. No one is doing anything for human rights for North Korean people. Well, not in a large scale of things. Correct me if I'm wrong. But for example, even worse, China is complicit in it because it really punishes North Koreans that end up in China illegally, even knowing the situations they're fleeing from. And Chinese government, no Chinese government, but Chinese authorities in itself, like police and the army, has turned a blind eye when kidnappings have occurred and attacks on Chinese soil by North Korean agents on North Korean deserters have been allowed in Chinese soil. While in South Korea, we all know that isn't happening. So is it all right to be complicit and follow the law and international procedures and treat North Korea with the same deference as, I don't know, Spain or Portugal or the United States? Even though they're doing this to their citizens, we can all agree outside North Korea, except for a few weird people, we can all agree that that is wrong. And nevertheless, we don't do anything to stop it. We don't do anything to. We're like complicit in a way because we're not helping those people. And I think that, Adrian, what you said, leaving the people there to solve their problem, I think that's true in many cases. But for example, in North Korea's case, where there's a lot of adoctrinamiento, I don't know how to call it, say it in English. Indoctrination, okay. It's been going on for not so long in North Korea for history standards, but it's already enough time for newer generations to know nothing about the outside world but what the government feeds them, and that is perpetuating the problem and making it even more difficult to solve. So I just wanted to pose the the debate. I don't know if North Korea's case would be like any other country because of
there's two
how
issues.
difficult the problem would be to solve.
I think there's two issues here, which is that A, we don't interfere in countries because we think the people are suffering. I mean, countries like the US, Russia, China, maybe that's what you put on your banner, but that's not the reason why we go to Iraq. It's not the reason why we go to Syria. That's not the reason why we're in Nicaragua or Colombia or anywhere else. It's because they have something that we want, or that their government is no longer useful to us economically. That's the actual reason. And secondly, we're not going to interfere in North Korea because A, they don't really have anything we want, and B, they have nuclear weapons. So we're not going to kick up. I mean, we're only going to attack the people that we're sure can't fight back. So it's also why nobody is ever going to interfere in Russia or even say anything to Russia or China or the US or anyone or India, because there's actual consequences.
Yeah. You're right.
Okay,
right.
so maybe I sounded too innocent when I posed that problem.
Okay, I'm sorry I dragged us into politics. Yeah, I'm sorry I dragged us into politics. But here's another question that I'm struggling with, and I forgot what the question is. So sorry.
But yeah, I think it's very interesting interpretation of the story because it's true. It does have a lot of parallels. I don't know that was the intention, but it's true. They go in, they wake up this leader. It's true that someone from within the kingdom is the one who actually kills the leader or the person who's in control. So that's an improvement maybe, but it's definitely outsiders interfering.
But
and then they just bugger off.
The weapons, as in reality, are handled by an outside force to one of the civil war.
Yeah, that's true.
I love these discussions just for the lengths we reach when talking about things. Who would have thought we would have ended talking about nuclear wars?
But now I can't unsee it. It's true. It's like a metaphor for Iraq.
Yeah,
it's like we came in.
It's the most beautiful thing of it all.
You should thank me because I'm the one who dragged us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
We really reach a very interesting topics for discussion. We always
Actually, I have another question. In the other kingdom, listening to you guys, like, do you think Snow White ran away only from marriage or also from like power? Like, what happened with the kingdom? Like, she resigned or what happened?
She resigned.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like
Present my letter of dismissal.
she runs in a constant adventure and forgets about the kingdom, the soon-to-be husband, and everyone else and everything.
But that's kind of disappointing, no? At least we
but
have
I
like a
love
female leader.
I really love that.
And she resigns.
It's so cool, and Devil May Care to just take your chainmail, take your sword, take your 3 dwarf sidekicks that are cute and funny and supportive, and you're like, yeah, don't want to marry, don't want my kingdom, don't want the responsibilities. Yeah, I just want to wave my sword around and rescue people. That's fine by me. I really find it very funny and very realistic. I think in many ways we're like that. It's like, yeah, should I don't know, work hard for my country and be a patriot? No, what the hell? I'm going to travel the world and do photos and I don't know, and spend my life doing what I want and not what someone else needs from me. I think it's cool in a way, but I think it of course is irresponsible, but I don't know.
I don't think
I
that
think it's natural.
it's irresponsible. I think that your any main response you have to be mainly responsible of yourself, and if the others have put you in some position, you don't have to do it because of it. How many people have to be a doctor or a politician or a lawyer because it's what his family or her family wanted? I think that in the story she is very brave because she said, I want to be what I want to be. I have the choice to do what I want to do. And if I don't know exactly now what I want to do, I know that the other life, the life that I have left behind, I don't want it. Then I have to go beyond it.
Yeah, we have found
Guys,
yet another
sorry.
parallelism. Snow White is refusing to study at university and going off to become a travel influencer. I think that's very cool.
I want her to be president. What the hell?
Yeah, I kind of agree that it's somebody's idea of strong women that knows nothing about the history of feminism or current conversations in feminism, because their idea is like, oh, there's a woman and she doesn't get married, that's feminism. But like, no, that's like, feminism is exactly women stepping into positions of power, which we're not encouraged to do, and putting up your hand even if you're not completely confident and putting yourself out there. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, you can do whatever you want, but like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird message if it's supposed to be sending a message.
I've remembered my question. And again, this is very idiotic question, but humor me again. For me, the sleeping people are equal to zombies, which is equal to dead people. And I don't have Facebook or Instagram account, but still I have addiction to my phone, and my average screen time daily is more than 7 hours. So for those of you who have like screen time more than 5 hours, would you consider yourself to be somewhat sleeping, zombie-like?
No.
Be honest. Be honest.
No. In my screen
You have
time
it very clear, Andrea.
my screen time is way higher, I think, nowadays because of them.
Oh my God, mine would be, I don't know, 10 hours, 12 hours? Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to find out.
Yeah, I'm addicted to screens too. And I don't think that being addicted to a screen makes you sleepy or a zombie. It serves the world to you in a different format, maybe, but you can still be very awake.
Yeah, but it's true. I see Eric's big point that there are people in our everyday lives, a lot of people that I think are asleep, are a bit unaware of some. I don't know. Maybe it reminds me of people that when you talk about issues with them, they're like, "Yeah, but we're better than before," and it's like, "Yeah, but it doesn't mean we're perfect. We have things to change. We have things to care about, and it, people. I think it reminds me of people who are too comfortable with how they live and how and the current state of things to do anything about it. That's what reminded me of the your comment.
Yeah, I
I don't
just want
know
to
if
elaborate on my question. You know, in Russia, we have a joke that the wedding was really cool because the venue did not have any Wi-Fi, right? And sometimes, sometimes in the restaurant you can see like couples, and they are looking at their phones. It's more interesting to be in the phone rather than with the person you love who is right in front of you, right? So and I was thinking that since my screen time is more than 7 hours and per day, and I don't have any Facebook or Instagram account, I think like I'm a zombie, and like I'm sleeping, I'm not living. So I was wondering what you think.
Yeah, I think you can use it in different ways, but in general, I kind of agree. Like we tend to use it. I mean, it's literally addictive, but we tend to use it as a distraction. I mean, I know when I was younger and I didn't have a smartphone and I didn't have all of this, it wasn't really available. Like I was much more creative. I created a lot of different projects. I always had songs I was working on. Like I generated a lot of stuff, and now it's so much easier to just, okay, it's like we're lazy. Like that's a survival strategy, but we always look for the easiest path, and it's much easier to pick up my phone and play Candy Crush or browse what somebody else has written or what someone else has done than put in the effort to do something myself. So no, I agree. It's taken away. I mean, it's added to our lives in many ways, but it's also taken stuff away from us in that way.
yeah, to me in that regard, the worst thing, the thing that irks me the most, I think, and I get really angry and I sound like a grandma when I complain about it, so bear with me. I have lots of friends my age, young people. I must say, we haven't grown with smartphones. I didn't have a smartphone until I was 15, so I'm not that young. I'm not like the kids today, but still. Um, I've traveled a lot with friends, and almost all of my friends are more preoccupied with taking photos of themselves, not caring about what they're seeing or where they're living, but about what they are going to post online and what people will think of them, and trying to. I've even had friends say to me, do I look carefree enough? Do I look happy enough in this photo? Because I want my ex to see it and I want him to think that I forget him. I've forgotten him. I'm like, yeah, don't do that, please. That's kind of defeating the purpose you want to achieve. That's disgusting. And I don't know. That irks me a lot because people are often like, when I think that when you travel with people and when you're a lot of time together with people you don't normally live with, you see for them for how they truly are. And I think I'm an old woman at heart because I'm all the time very calm, very quiet, and very, yeah, and I'm like a tour guide. I'm always explaining, this is that. And I want to go to museums and things like that. I don't think that's better than going someplace fun. It's just my take on traveling. But I don't like, I can't seem to stop traveling with people that their idea of traveling is to go to Venice and start shopping at a Zara store just identical to the one you have at home. I, I don't understand that. I think those people are zombies that need to wake up and savor the world for what it truly is. I don't get it, and I get so angry when I see it. And I remember that in Venice, I started shouting like, "What are you doing?" And I got so angry. It's horrible, but I don't understand people. How can they be so? I don't know.
No, totally. Like the people who go traveling and to very exotic places, but they eat at Burger Kings and stuff like that. It's like, why do you go so far away to have the same things
To
that
do
you
the
had?
same.
Yeah, I used to have a coworker that used to tell that on her honeymoon, after she got married to her husband, they went to, I can't remember, like Thailand or somewhere that it was like quite interesting to be there. And she said that they ate hamburgers every single day, but because they didn't like the local food. I honestly think that they didn't even try it. It's like this, yeah. Well, that happens. I have to disagree though in this. Evilization, for saying it like that, like thinking that technology is evil and only does harm. Like these people that you were commenting on, Eugenia, that were like taking pictures to look nice for their exes, so their exes thought that they were happy or whatever. That had happened since always, before the smartphones, before anything. Like you went to a party, and if you knew that your ex was going to be there, you wanted to look nice and good, so they think that you have moved on and you are perfectly okay or whatever. I agree that
You're
is
in a
so.
party, not in Amsterdam. That's my point.
Yeah, no, but whatever. What is important to us sometimes is the things that affect our hearts. So we react upon that in a party, in a picture that we are going to later show, or online nowadays. I agree that is shallow and that is. Yeah, it is quite empty, and we shouldn't do that. Like we should build to be happy in reality, not just to show it to others. But we are humans, and especially when you are very young, you tend to do a stupid shit, like trying to present yourself as something that you are not because you haven't found yourself yet. That happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that, but I've had 6 hours photo shoots while touring a city, and I don't think that's normal or healthy. I complain a lot, I know, but I find it so infuriating because it's like you're not appreciating what we have and what we can do. There are people who cannot travel, who cannot go to different places and see. I don't know. You're in the, I don't know how to say it. It seems stupid. You're in the Foro Romano and you're worrying about how you look in Instagram. Well, I don't know. People have died there eaten by lions. I don't think that's I think that's shallow in comparison because you have to appreciate what you have in front of you. You have to, maybe it was a bad example. Now I have this image of people being eaten by lions and people doing selfies with them, and that's a disturbing thought to have. But I don't know, I just complain because I think it's not, it's unappreciative. I don't know if that word exists. I'm very tense today, but yeah, it's not appreciating the privilege you have and just focusing on something that will not be there in long after you're gone. And I don't think that's the point of life. The point of life is living, not selecting a few moments of your life and just forgetting about living that moment to begin with, just having proof of what you've done instead of living. I don't know.
No.
Just
I totally
Yes.
agree. And I had this realization in Turkey because I think it was Istanbul, maybe Ankara, Istanbul. And I was trying to take the perfect pictures to post them on Facebook and on social networks and to send to the family and stuff, like this angle of the building and whatever I was looking at.
You're an
And I sent,
Instagrammer.
not really, no, not much. More for me, for memories and to send to family and friends. But yeah, sometimes to Facebook too. And I was, one of these pictures was of a place where there was like an obelisk that I saw it and I didn't know what it meant, and it was like cool. Oh, big stone big rock in the middle of this square. So I took a picture and sent it to a coworker of mine that is he studied history. He has a degree in history and does a podcast about historic things. And when he responded to my picture of this obelisk, he said, "Yeah, that's well, I can't remember. Like it was made by the Egyptians like 2,000 years ago." And he said, 2,000 years of history are looking at you right now. And I was like, what the fuck? And I'm more worried of getting the right angle and posting to Facebook instead of realizing how marvelous is where I am standing right now, where 2,000 of history have gone through in this same square where I'm standing right now. But yeah, sometimes it's quite difficult to notice this.
I'm more like you, Eugenia, that I like to appreciate where I am at the moment and really soak it in. And they've done some studies too, I don't know how exhaustive they are, but that like if you don't take photos, if you're just like focused on what's happening, you actually remember better. Like
I think it's the other way around.
No,
yeah.
Not the study I read.
Okay,
like if you don't take photos,
because that's a big difference.
You remember more like about it and you remember better than if you're just like snapping photos.
Yeah, so sometimes you are watching the reality through the screen of your camera of your mobile, and that's not the way. I think I like photography very much, some of you already know, and I always say that the photo should be the conclusion of you watching and enjoying what is around you. So you go to one place, you enjoy the place with your own eyes, and then you realize you want to take one picture. That's fine, okay? But having the obligation of taking pictures, nobody's paying you for that. You don't have a something requested by a newspaper or something. No, you go traveling to some place to have the experience. So have the experience, and then after that, after you realize you have enjoyed the experience, you can take pictures, because your pictures after enjoying feeling the experience will be better than before. So I always have this feeling with the people that are paying 40, 50 euros for a concert, and they are watching 70% of the concert through the screen of their mobile. That's silly. You are wasting the opportunity.
Eloisa,
you can buy the video. You can buy the video. Also, also, when people are doing tourism, no, I mean, sometimes you want to take a video to catch one moment. Okay, one video, that's fine. It's like the people that are going to visit Egypt, okay, and are taking 1,000 pictures every day. I have seen people like that. Say, okay, you've been taking pictures there, but you are not been enjoying the place. That is the reason you are traveling, because you can go to the souvenir store and buy a pile of postcards that actually will be much better pictures than the one you can do. It is what it is.
Sadly true.
We're
not only great photographers, we're just amateurs.
All of us
will make those mistakes. All of us.
I think that every person look for different things, and there are different levels. Maybe one person is looking all the pyramids and all the obelisks and all the things, but maybe other people can say that, oh, that people look for information about the places before go to them, because the experience is more deep than if you only go. And it's always someone that can do the things more deeply than ourselves. I think that we have to be well with ourselves, and maybe if what you like is to show your pictures to other people and you are happy with it, it's okay. I don't like it. In fact, maybe in a trip I take only 3 or 4 pictures and that's it. But maybe it's perfect for other people because they enjoy to look to show it to people and say, I have been here, and that is what that those people need to be happy. I don't think that we can say this is good or this is bad. The perfect thing is to do what we want. And what is perfect if nobody saw me there are 1,000 pictures because he did.
Yeah, sometimes we go to concerts or to some trips, not just to enjoy the place, but also to provoke the envy in our friends. Okay, I've been there, just not. It's silly. It's childish behavior. Okay, and it's also. I realized I was behaving like that. Okay, taking a lot of pictures because of my insecurity of taking pictures. Didn't realize. Yeah, no, I'm supposed to be here. Just so instead of forcing myself to enjoy, so focus my attention, my senses in enjoying the moment. Okay, I was just trapped by the camera or by the mobile sometimes. It's a matter. I mean, the more photograph I do, the more photography I learn. Okay, the less pictures I take. I feel I need less pictures, but it's my
What you
my
just said,
perception.
Antonio, reminded me of this saying that it's better to have few friends, but very good ones, than have lots of friends and have them not be close friends. It's better to do fewer pictures if they're of better quality and more thought
That's for
out.
everything. Also
Doing a whole reel of
for
pictures
songs
that
in your mobile. We also want to have 1,000 MP3 songs in our mobile. We don't need that 1,000. Even in the Kindle, for example, in my book reader, I used to have some time ago 5,000 books. That's insane because it's even useless because you can find what you're looking for. Now I'm having less than 20, for example, and it's already too much, maybe. Okay, but just in case, it's like when you prepare your case, your luggage for to go to some place. No, you are always. I still do. I try to not to do that so often, but we feel the case of just in case things. Just in case.
now we're following the Maricondo methods. We're turning minimalistic. But what
no, but it's also the same. The more you travel, the more experience you get preparing the travel, not only for the clothes, but also for some other items you are bringing or some plans you are doing. And also you are not forced to go to a tourist visit with a shopping list. I have to see this, I have to visit that, I have to take this picture. No, you go to the place, and sometimes it's a good thing visiting one place or missing taking one picture, because then you have the best excuse to be back in that place if you really like it. So, but doing tourism with a shopping list is not a good idea in my opinion.
Yeah, and what more about what you said before, I really think that for some people, it happens to me. If I spend a lot of time taking pictures, I forget about most of the day about most of what I'm doing. But if I focus on just living my traveling, and just focusing on what I want to do, what I want to enjoy, I remember. I don't remember most of it, but I do remember this general feeling of, I think, of traveling, discovering things and just enjoying it, and it leaves a better taste in my mouth, and I remember it much more fondly. And I've had travelings that I've spent them with friends that are wannabe wannabe photographers doing a lot of photo shoots and not really enjoying things much, and I respect that, and I've respected that, but I've gone along with it, and I've ended up really regretting that choice, because I should have spoken up for myself and said, well, you can do this, but I can do my thing too. I can just separate and go see the things I want to see. But for example, I remember a very powerful example I had, because I was with my friends traveling through Europe by train, the Interrail. It was a really fun experience. It really opened my mind a lot, and we were 2 weeks. It's a lot of time to be traveling, and to be traveling with friends that you've known for 10 years is hard because you end up so fed up by them. You're like, yeah, I can't stand you anymore. But at the end, you go home and you're like, yeah, but we survived without killing each other. That's good enough. That has to be good enough. But I remember we were in the Colosseum. We spent half our traveling in Italy. We spent almost a week there. And on our third day, it was right at the end of the month, and it was the day Movistar, which was our phone operator for all of us, changed its data. It's like the data was our data in our phones was going to run out. We had no internet, so we left our phones at home because we couldn't even run WhatsApp. We had spent all of our datos, and we couldn't even because we have been opening the GPS and looking for places and things like that, and our phones served no purpose outside of the hotel. So we went to the Colosseum, and we had one of the funniest days because we were all the time chatting with one another, having fun, and we ended up falling off the stairs of the Colosseum while singing in French. And to me, it's my most favorite time of all my history of traveling. And when we would go home, I told my friends, this all happened because we had no phones. And my friends agreed. In fact, of course, the day after, they were back to using their phones 24/7. But to me, it was enough to make them realize that we could have a few moments of those every other day, because the problem with things is abusing them. It's fine to do photos, but it's not cool to stop living just because you want to abuse.
I agree that using too much the phones and the screens, although I do it a lot, isolates you from the surroundings and doesn't allow you to live the experience more. I was looking into the memory related to pictures thing because this surprised me more that you said that, because this is something that I have quoted a lot talking about this same thing with many people, and the studies that I have seen show that the opposite. Like when you take pictures, you remember more of those pictures. And the studies that I found seems to support this thing, even if we didn't wanted them to. But there's a catch, which is that for the people who took pictures, remember more the visual aspects of what they were looking at, even visual aspects that were not in the frame of the picture. They remember that better, but remember less of auditory elements that the people that didn't have the camera. I guess none studies conclusive, but probably having to focus into something to take the picture makes you remember the thing more. I don't know, I have got this study a lot of time, and it surprises me. But the whole thing is what Eugenia was saying, that if you are focusing something that is not the world surrounding you, you lose something of the experience that is around.
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't know.
We can look into studies later.
I mean, yeah, I don't really care. I just thought it was interesting, but yeah, if it's not true, then it's not true. I guess yeah, I'm not I'm more of a feeling and auditory person, so maybe that's what was left in my memory. That's like what I took away from it, because the visual aspect is like normally less important to me.
I'm so with you in this one, Mo. I'm so with you in this one.
Anyways, we have been talking about the story, this fairy tale, for more than 2 hours. Is there anything else you want to add about it, about travel experiences and stuff?
I just want to spam the discussion on Sunday because I chose it. So please come. You're invited.
Which one is it on Sunday?
Sounds interesting. The Comet.
Which one?
No? Yeah.
No, the Comet is next Thursday. What is yours, Eugenia?
Oh, I thought you were praising my choice. I'm disappointed. It's a very cool story. It's a story about a girl that is the only survivor of the world. Is the only person left. And something happens and she gets to...
Don't spoil it.
Don't tell us too much.
No, I haven't read it. And she gets to ask for 3 wishes. I don't know how, but she gets to ask for 3 wishes. I'm not spoiling anything. I haven't read it. How can I spoil anything?
Actually, sounds very interesting. I think I thought that the number of people coming to the discussions was going to decrease. Today, for example, Aurora said that she no longer can on Thursday because she has to work. Jessica said that she no longer can on Thursday because she has to work. But still, we were like 10 or something like that. So,
yeah,
so I guess that on Sunday will be even more. Although people have less time the more that the quarantine ends. So I don't know.
Yeah, but nevertheless, I spam it. Please come on Sunday. The story sounds interesting. It was advices. I found it in a blog article talking about short stories that were available online and were like a bit fantastic, science fiction like, and this one was described as the weirdest of them all, but very cool. And I was like, sounds right up our alley. We like weird stories because they give us more to comment on. So
okay,
the
I
image,
spam it
I
too.
loved it.
I'm doing propaganda of your story now too. Everybody should come. All right, so see you on Sunday then. Oh, wait, I was thinking when we were talking about disenchantment at the beginning, and don't tell me that it's not very similar to what we just read. This. Did you see the disenchantment thinking?
Oh my god, yeah. I'm watching Netflix on another YouTube. I thought I was watching Netflix on another people's computer.
And the princess saying no and leaving and a dwarf or something. No.
I mean, it uses fairy tale aspects. That's
It's
true,
a parody, not like this one.
I like Futurama more than this one, but it's okay.
I like Futurama more than basically everything, so that's not much of a comparison.
Totally.
I'm always like, this is worse than Futurama.
But everything is worse than Futurama, so.
Anyways, guys, sorry.
I remember watching Futurama when I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, I think this is not for me. I don't understand anything because it's for adults, not for children.
Yeah, it's definitely for adults.
Well, so see you on Sunday. Please.
Thank you very much. See you on Sunday.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.